How many times have you felt that you are making an effort, studying, working, doing everything right, and even so, your financial reality does not change from its place? As if there is an invisible glass between you and the next level. And as much as you try to break that block with force, planning, or positivity, something just doesn't move. What few realize is that prospering is not just a matter of doing more. It's a matter of aligning with the right cycles. In the Jewish tradition, there is an ancient principle that explains why some doors open fluidly, while others require absurd wear and tear. It's not about luck, and much less about magic. It is a spiritual rhythm. To get in tune with sacred time, the one that does not follow the common clock, but the rhythm of the soul. The Torah teaches that great changes, including financial ones, can happen in just 7 days. When each of these days is lived with intention, awareness, and connection with a greater purpose. I saw this happen in the life of a student who came to me after years of trying to become an entrepreneur. He had incredible ideas, took courses, read books, but couldn't get out of scratch. Everything looked promising, but nothing flowed. When he understood what you are going to learn here, that there is a spiritual structure that needs to be respected, and that each day of the week carries a specific key to unlock Parnasa, everything started to turn. Not overnight, but from day to day. In this video, you will discover this ancient technique, revealed between the lines of the Torah and transmitted by masters who understood the spiritual movement of money. A practice based on 7 days, 7 movements, 7 codes. It's not about doing more. It's about doing it the right way, at the right time, with the right intention. That changes everything. You are here because you feel that there is something bigger behind the way money moves in the world. Because deep down you know that true prosperity is not just about numbers in the account, but about a state of alignment between soul, purpose, and action. And that's precisely why this channel exists, for those who want to grow with awareness, wealth with meaning, and freedom without guilt. Here, each video is a key, and each key is rooted in an ancient wisdom that few access in depth. Therefore, it makes perfect sense that you walk with us on this journey. Check now if you are already subscribed to the channel, and if you are not yet, this is the time. Those who understand that thriving with light is a spiritual act are part of this movement. And your presence here strengthens this community that transforms lives from the inside out. Within Jewish thought, the number 7 is not just a recurring symbol. It is a spiritual pillar. It carries with it a logic of closure and restart, a divine matrix that organizes time, space, and consciousness. When we look at the Torah, the 7-day cycles are everywhere. 7 days of creation, 7 weeks of the Omer between Passover and Shavuot, 7 blessings at the Jewish wedding, 7 turns around the Torah during Simchat Torah, 7 days of mourning, and so on. This number is a hidden key, which signals that a process has been completed with purpose, and that something new is ready to emerge. Kabbalah deepens this logic by revealing that the 7 days correspond to the 7 emotional sephirot: Chesed, kindness; Gevura, limit; Tiferet, balance; Netzach, persistence; Hod, surrender; Yesod, foundation; and Malchut, manifestation. Each of these dimensions represents a stage of our inner development, including in the financial area. When one of these spheres is misaligned, the energy of Parnasa, sustenance, does not flow with stability. What the sages do is to consciously work on one of these forces each day, through actions, meditations, words, donations, or silences. 7 days, 7 pillars. A tikkun, a correction, a fine-tuning of the soul with a direct impact on practical reality. Shabbat, for example, the 7th day of the week, is much more than a time of rest. It is a sanctuary in time. When someone allows themselves to pause with intention, something organizes itself inside and outside. And not by chance, many reports of people who thrive with constancy report that they have learned to respect their rhythms, who understood that money does not only respond to effort, but to alignment. And alignment is born of cycles, of honorable stages, one after the other. Such is the power of the number 7. It teaches us that the financial miracle does not happen by random accumulation of actions, but by spiritual order applied with constancy. In the context of the Torah, there is also the concept of the Shemitah, the seventh year in which the land rests, debts are forgiven, and trust in God is put to the test. The teaching here is clear. No wealth is sustainable if it is disconnected from regeneration, conscious pauses, and purpose. And this is exactly what the 7-day technique proposes. A short but profound cycle, where each act is symbolic, each choice is restorative, and each day is a step towards a new frequency of prosperity. Tradition calls this tikkun katan, a small repair that generates big twists and turns. And the most incredible thing is that this does not require great rituals or radical changes. It requires presence, kavana, a type of attention that transforms simple actions into spiritual codes of expansion. Each person who decides to spend 7 whole days living with clarity, gratitude, ethics, and generosity begins to realize that what was stuck begins, little by little, to loosen up. Doors open. Contacts arise. Unexpected opportunities appear. Because you're no longer pushing life, you're flowing with it. There is a deep wisdom behind time. In the Jewish view, what many call ordinary days are actually spiritual portals in disguise. The Torah does not see time as something linear, but as a sacred spiral where each cycle brings the opportunity to repair, elevate, and rebuild. When we talk about a 7-day cycle, we are not just talking about a week on the calendar. We are talking about a spiritual model that carries an ancient intelligence, a detailed plan of internal transformation that reflects on the external world. The structure that the Torah reveals for these 7 days is not random. It is organized into 3 essential movements that act as a reconstruction mechanism: cleansing, intention, and multiplication. The first 2 days are dedicated to cleaning, and not only in the physical sense, but energetically and emotionally. It is the moment when the person makes a bedikat parnasah, an internal search for the blockages that have sabotaged his prosperity. It's like opening drawers forgotten in the soul, where beliefs such as, "I don't deserve it," "I'll never leave the place," "all the money I earn, I lose," still live. The Torah teaches that before planting something new, one must pull weeds, because even the best soil can suffocate a seed if it is covered in ancient residues. These 2 days are days of introspection, of practical teshuvah, of writing down on paper the weights that no longer make sense to carry and to free oneself with awareness. The next 2 days form the second movement, the kavanah, clear intention, focus with purpose. Here, the cycle enters a territory of alignment. What do I want to build? Why do I want to prosper? What is the real mission behind my desire for parnasah? It is at this point that consciousness rises and desire begins to serve a greater good. Blessings only have a place to go when they find direction. Without this, they are lost. These days are days of visualization, of positive words, of spiritual affirmation, days of rekindling motivation, but now with direction and ethics. It is like sharpening the axe before cutting down the tree, effort with wisdom. And then, we come to the last 3 days of the cycle, the third movement, multiplication. Here, the energy that was previously blocked and then realigned begins to move into the real world. This is the moment of intentional action. The Torah does not separate faith and practice. It unites the 2 dimensions in the concept of Hishtadlut, effort with consciousness. During these 3 days, the spiritual orientation is clear. To do, but to do with presence. Each step must be taken with emunah, faith, but with our feet on the ground. This is when a person initiates small external movements, such as reorganizing their finances, having a conversation that was being postponed, offering a service, making room for new connections, or even giving with purpose, activating the principle of Tzedakah as the engine of abundance. This 7-day cycle is like a 3-step ladder. First, we wipe away the weight of the past. Then we choose clearly where we are going. And finally, we act with strategy and spirituality. It's not about changing the whole world in a week. It's about changing how often you relate to reality. The Torah teaches that the small with purpose is greater than the great without direction. And this principle can be seen in stories of ordinary people who allowed themselves to cross a cycle like this with seriousness. Imagine a small merchant who, after a personal and professional crisis, decided to apply this model. He spent 2 days reviewing patterns and beliefs, 2 days declaring with faith where he wanted to go, and 3 days putting order in finances, reconnecting old customers, writing his Parnassa goal on the bedroom mirror, and making a small anonymous donation. On the 7th day, an unexpected response. A forgotten partnership is rekindled. A proposal arrives. A solution appears. Coincidence? For the Torah, synchronicity is just the modern name for miracles in disguise. Now that you understand this cycle of rebuilding, it's much clearer that it's not about magic. It's about rhythm. It's about aligning the heavens with the earth within 7 days, with awareness and action. And this is just the beginning of the technique that can transform your relationship with money in a practical and spiritual way. There is a difference between learning about prosperity and activating it. And the Torah, which never separates theory from practice, shows us that all true transformation happens when a spiritual code finds concrete expression in everyday life. Therefore, now that we understand the symbolic cycle of the 7 days, it is time to step down from the conceptual plane and touch reality with our hands. The technique we are going to apply is simple, profound, and millennial. It does not require spectacular miracles, but a real commitment to a process that involves action, kavana, intention, and order. The first 2 days of the journey have a single objective: to clean the soil so that the financial seed can be planted strongly. In the vocabulary of the Torah, nothing bears fruit where there is spiritual impurity, disorder, or cursed words. Therefore, the beginning of the process requires a movement of practical teshuvah. On day 1, you'll deal with what's out of place in your finances: ignored bills, broken payment promises, forgotten agreements, unresolved charges. This is the time to look at what you have been avoiding. The practical task is simple but powerful. Choose at least one financial or energy issue that weighs you down and solve it or start solving it. Along with this, recite Psalm 32:5. I confessed my sin to you, and my guilt I did not cover, as a way of declaring that you are freeing yourself from paralysis. What does this act create? A clean field so that the blessing of the Parnassah moves again. Day 2, on the other hand, deals with a less visible cleansing, the words you've been using about money. According to the sages of the Talmud, the tongue has the power to create and destroy, to attract and block. Therefore, the invitation is to list negative automatic phrases that you usually say. Money is difficult. I can never save anything. Rich people don't get into heaven. And transform each one with awareness. Instead of, I'm terrible with money, declare, I'm learning to master my finances wisely. The Torah teaches us that words have a life of their own, and every sentence is a seed. So end the 2nd day by reciting Proverbs 18:21. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. Those who use it well will eat of its fruit. It is like planting in the invisible something that will manifest in the visible. On the 3rd and 4th, we enter the 2nd movement, reorganizing the purpose. Here, the idea is not to run after more money, but to give direction to what you want to generate. On day 3, the practical task is to write your financial vision in faith. This is not a list of loose wishes, but a map of purpose. What do you want to sustain with your prosperity? What will your abundance transform in your life and in the lives of others? Write in detail, as if you were describing a GD-approved life project. An example of spiritual anchoring for this moment is the verse Deuteronomy 8:18. It is the Lord your GD who gives you power to acquire riches. He doesn't just allow, he empowers, as long as the purpose is aligned with the truth of the soul. On day 4, this purpose needs to get off the ground and find its first concrete action. It can be a small financial organization, a proposal sent, a new product launched, a value conversation started. What matters is that the action is at the service of the vision. As the concept of Hishtadlut teaches us, it is not enough to wait. It is necessary to act consciously. That day is about aligning steps with intentions, and one verse that anchors this strongly is Psalm 90:17. Establish upon us the work of our hands. The idea is clear. Whoever acts with kavana opens the way for the sky to support the movements of the earth. And there is still more to be activated on this journey, because the last 3 days are not the end. They are the beginning of multiplication. They prepare us to reap what we are now sowing with wisdom, faith, and strategy. From the 5th to the 7th day, we enter the most decisive stage of this spiritual and financial cycle, the activation of abundance through conscious planting. And here, it is essential to understand that planting, in the language of the Torah, does not mean doing for the sake of doing. It means generating movement from a sacred intention. On day 5, the call is for a silent gesture of tzedakah, not as a simple automatic donation, but as an act of spiritual reparation. You intentionally choose someone or some cause to support. It can be financial aid, food delivered with discretion, strategic support that does not generate expectations of return. This type of bestowal activates a flow that Jewish wisdom calls havtachah, the divine promise that whoever supports the other will be sustained from above. To anchor this practice, recite Proverbs 11:25. A generous soul will prosper, and he who waters will also be watered. On day 6, the invitation is to make a movement that expands your contacts, a gesture of networking with soul. The Jewish tradition highly values the concept of havarim, which are the friends with whom one grows together. This is not about cold interest, but about strategic connection. Therefore, choose someone with whom you want to strengthen ties and offer value. Send useful content, propose an exchange, listen carefully, bless that person's journey. This gesture, when done with truth, opens channels of reciprocity. The energy of multiplication does not flow alone. It seeks relational channels. To strengthen this day, meditate on the verse Ecclesiastes 4:9. 2 are better than 1, because they have better pay for their labor. And then comes day 7, the day of synthesis, of blessing, of the inner Shabbat. Even if you're in the middle of an average week, that day should be marked by a meaningful break. The task is simple and powerful. Set aside time in your day for purposeful financial wisdom study. It can be a Torah excerpt, an article, a reflection, something that elevates your thinking and reinforces your identity as someone who manages wealth with spirituality. This is the day of reintegration, of realignment. It is time to look back on your week and recognize how close you have come to your tikkun, your spiritual reparation through money. Recite Isaiah 58:11. The Lord will guide you continually, and will satisfy your soul in dry places, and strengthen your bones, and you will be like a watered garden. This verse seals the cycle, stating that the true result is not only external, but a strengthened soul and a heart at peace with what it has built. This technique is not about superstition or rush, it's about spiritual precision. There are 7 days in which you act as a partner of GD in building a new financial reality. You clear what you hold, declare what you want, plant with awareness, and pause wisely. It's a microcycle of tikkun, a reunion with the original order you lost in the chaos of everyday life. Many spend their lives trying to do the right thing at the wrong time. Others act too much but without direction. What this 7-day journey teaches you is that prosperity is a consequence of rhythm, intention, and alignment with the eternal principles of the Torah. And this is what differentiates those who only want from those who really manifest. If that wisdom resonated with something inside you, if you felt like it was more than a piece of content, it was a rescue, an internal reorganization, then leave your like now. This is not just a gesture of support for the channel. It's the most direct way of telling me, keep delivering this ancestral knowledge that no one else is revealing like this. Here, each video is built on centuries of Jewish wisdom applied to real life. No empty formulas, no illusory shortcuts. It is a pact of value, from soul to soul. Your like strengthens this mission, and I'm still here, digging deep into the secrets of the Torah to transform your way of dealing with money, purpose, and spirituality. The biggest trap of those who seek spiritual financial transformation is to believe that extraordinary results will come from extraordinary actions, as if the blessing depended on something great, rare, or exceptional. But the wisdom of the Torah shows just the opposite. What attracts lasting abundance is not the size of the gesture. It is repetition with intention, the invisible discipline done when no one is looking. is what really builds Parnassa's canals. Because miracles do not feed on euphoria. They sustain themselves in rhythm. In tikkun, that happens one day at a time. The Zohar teaches that the spiritual universe responds to patterns, not to loose intentions or impulsive efforts, but to constant frequencies, like that of a drum that always plays in the same rhythm. Each day that you act with kavana, whether it is blessing the bread, separating the maser, arranging a value, or studying a financial principle of the Torah, you are emitting a specific vibration into the unseen world. And the more stable this vibration becomes, the more it is recognized as a reliable channel for the flow of abundance. Constancy is the spiritual seal that you are ready to receive. There is a simple but powerful example. Imagine a farmer who waters his crop every day, even when he doesn't see shoots, even when the sky is cloudy, even when everyone around him has given up. He doesn't do it out of superstition. He does it because he understands the time of the earth. So too is the one who builds his 7-day cycle of reconnection with the Torah codes. This person begins the day with a blessing, ends with an act of order, honors the money that comes in, blesses what goes out, offers a good word, a sincere donation, an attentive listening. And even if you don't see major changes in your bank statement yet, you already feel something else growing inside. Clarity, confidence, presence. And that's when the soul begins to expand its vessel. Spiritual constancy in Judaism is not an external obligation. It is an internal response. It's like saying to the universe, I'm ready, even without seeing. I remain, even without evidence. I walk, even without signs. And little by little, this silent compromise turns into a magnetic field. Because blessing is not just something that comes down, it is something that finds a place to land. The very name of God revealed to Moses, Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh, already carries the code of the process. I will be what I will be. A future shaped by an identity that is built today. How many times have you started something with enthusiasm, but gave up because you didn't see quick results? This is the pattern that needs to be broken. His tikkun is not in finding the perfect technique, but in being someone who sustains the right practice until it bears fruit. Because when the Torah speaks of Shmirat HaMitzvot, the keeping of the commandments, it is talking about just that, guarding, sustaining, protecting the connection that you have already accessed. And money, like every form of sacred energy, respects this law. I'll explain how this entire cycle turns into a personal structure of continuous financial manifestation, where effort, faith, and direction go together. Imagine that in a small Jewish neighborhood, almost hidden from the noise of the big cities, a middle-aged man named Daniel was going through a crisis that seemed irreversible. He had lost his job, accumulated debts, and worst of all, had lost faith that things could change. He was not someone without training or willpower. On the contrary, he was the typical example of someone who always gave his best, but felt that something invisible blocked his paths. It was on a silent Shabbat, while reading an ancient text on tikkun and spiritual cycles, that Daniel first heard about the power of the number 7 in the Torah. Something in him awoke, not as someone who finds a magic formula, but as someone who recognizes an intimate call. The next day, he decided to apply what he had learned. A 7-day cycle divided into 3 phases: cleansing, intention, and action. For the first 2 days, Daniel dedicated himself to undoing old knots. He canceled useless subscriptions, cleaned up his work environment, returned money he owed to a friend, apologized for an unresolved disagreement, and for the first time in a long time, stopped complaining about his own situation. He understood that scarcity often accumulates where there is disorder and lack of reconciliation. On days 3 and 4, he sat down with a notebook and wrote a new vision of his financial life. He specified how he would like to serve, to grow, to use money with purpose. He wrote with kavana, feeling every word like a spiritual contract. He no longer wanted to just get out of the red. He wanted to live a life that represented the clean abundance that the Torah teaches. With each word, his mind cleared, his body gained strength. It was as if a new system was being installed inside it. In the last 3 days, Daniel began to act consciously. He discreetly donated a small amount of money to a neighbor in difficulty, offered help in an interview to a young man in the community, studied passages of the Torah linked to Parnassah, and committed himself to seeking a new source of livelihood that did not violate his principles of honesty and service. By the end of the 7th day, something subtle, but concrete, had changed. The next morning, he received an unexpected call. An old contact had remembered him for a consultancy that would pay enough for Daniel to reorganize his life. The contract was temporary, but renewable. More important than the value was the feeling. He was back in the game, but now, with a different mind. And that was just the beginning of a sequence of opportunities that arose in the following months. Daniel doesn't attribute everything to technique. He calls it consistency with faith. And this story is not unique. Cases like Daniel's have been multiplying among people who understand that the miracle of abundance is not a random phenomenon. It is built day after day with small choices. It's like watering a seed without knowing how big of a tree it can become. The strength of this 7-day cycle lies exactly in the combination of practical actions and spiritual intention. The Torah has never separated effort from faith. Hishtadlut is not running wildly after results. It is acting with direction, with coherence, with kavanah. And the 7-day cycle is perhaps the most accessible and profound tool we have to restore that alignment. When done with truth, it turns a key. And when that key turns, doors open where before there was only a wall. True transformation does not begin when money comes in. It starts when you understand that multiplication doesn't just happen with numbers. It happens with direction. And direction, according to the Torah, comes not from uncontrolled effort, but from the alignment between your action, your kavanah, and the right timing. That is why this 7-day cycle is much more than a sequence of spiritual tasks. It is a restructuring of your consciousness, a return to the axis. It's not magic, it's tikkun. It's not about haste, it's about precision. It's not about asking for more. It's about becoming able to receive what's already coming. When you clean, organize, and plant with intention, as we did in the early days, you start to notice something subtle. Your financial decisions become clearer. The inner voices that once knew how to only sabotage you now begin to guide you. It is almost as if the soul starts to operate like a GPS, adjusting the path in real time. This is applied spirituality, not theory. This is prosperity with soul. And when you get to the 7th day of the cycle, it's not over. You access a new starting point, one step higher. Daniel, whose story I told you, understood this over time. After he applied this simple cycle with constancy, not only did his income increase, but the way he related to money also changed. He no longer spoke of money out of fear or guilt. He spoke with purpose. He knew what he was getting at. He knew what he wanted to sustain, and therefore it began to prosper more lightly. At this point in the journey, I want you to look within. Which of these 7 days marked you the most? Which practice touched something that was dormant inside? Maybe it was the act of giving in silence, maybe the moment when you cleansed old promises, or maybe that instant of writing your vision in faith. Choose one. And right here in the comments, I start my cycle today. Just this decision to declare is already a spiritual movement. It is already the beginning of a new flow. And remember, here, no one walks alone. We are creating a community where each person does their tikkun with courage, but with support. Every comment of yours here strengthens the crossing of those who are next to you. Therefore, it shares and multiplies. And for you to receive more content, where Jewish wisdom becomes a real-life tool, this channel is your space. Sign up now and turn on notifications. With each new video, you'll realize that thriving with faith and strategy isn't just possible. It's your next step. In the next video, I'm going to show you how Shabbat, the day of stopping, the day of not doing, is actually the biggest financial accelerator of Jewish tradition. Trust me, this is the most counterintuitive and powerful code you'll ever know. Now click on the video that is appearing on the screen. We meet there.